This is tape 3, continuing the description of mines and prospects in the Atlanta mining district of the Boise National Forest, visited in the summer of 2001. Please review the beginning of tape 1 for location information on these properties. These next workings are on the Yuba claim group. This is July 26, 2001. I'm at HA 84. This is the Yuba tunnel of the Yuba group. You can see that the adit here is caved, just a little notch there on the slope, and we've got a little bit of a seep of water coming out here, probably no more than 1 or 2 gallons a minute at the most. A little pipe sticking out there as well. We're right at the National Forest boundary. There's one of the posts. There's also one on the dump behind me, about halfway down over, or adjacent to the dump. So part of the waste dump may actually be on Forest Service land, and part of this may be on a patented claim. I'm not exactly sure how the boundary runs through here. In any case, that's about all there is right there at the adit. The water comes out, crosses the access road. This is the road that comes in along the Yuba River and turns east along Decker Creek. Water comes out, flows over the bank here, and actually flows down a little ways and then seeps into the slope. The waste dump is this kind of flat out here in front of me. Extends from just on the other side of the pickup there over to here. It's about 95 feet long in the parallel to the road, about 45 feet wide from the road out to this front face. And if I take a look down over, you can see it goes down over here probably a good 50 to 60 feet. I'm sure a little bit trickles down, makes it to creek level, but in all actuality it really doesn't impact the creek at all. The creek seems to be moving across the other side there a little bit right now, and doesn't seem to be eroding this at all. So I'm not going to bother getting a sample here. It's pretty much all granite, a little bit of iron staining, very little. You can see some right here, and that's about it. This road continues on up to the east along Decker Creek, and this is Decker Creek down here below me. Just to the west here is a burnt mill site, and I'll go over and take a look at that. I'm not sure if it's related to the Yuba mine or to some other mines in the area, but it's fairly close to it. In fact, I think if I just kind of zoom in a little bit, right down through the trees there, you can see a bare area that is the lower pad of the old mill. So I'll go on down there and we'll get a few photographs of that and some video of it, and we'll see if there's any tailings. I haven't been down there yet, so we'll take a look. If there's tailings, we'll get a sample. It does appear as though the mill site might actually be on Forest Service land. Again, I'm not quite sure how the boundary sits in here. I've come down to nearly to the mill, and this is looking back toward the waste dump for the Yuba tunnel. It's basically right behind this little group of trees, slopes off down behind this group of trees right here. And you can see the old stone foundation over here. This is pretty well built. Looks like they were shaped granite blocks. Pretty nicely made. Goes on down, and then down here at the bottom there's actually some concrete footings or pad there, and some more concrete down below here, a couple of pieces down over there. I haven't been down again yet, so I'll go down and see. This area here in the middle looks like it might be some jig tailings, possibly flotation tails, but don't know if they had a flotation mill in here or not. So we'll go on down and see what's down there. I'm down here at the mill. The road is just above that rock right there, above this uppermost wall. And there really isn't any concrete here. I thought it looked like some concrete, but all of these footings and walls are built out of granite blocks. The one that was over here is actually granite block with some bolts embedded in it. These do look like flotation tails here on top. Looks like it's about a foot thick. Probably about 25 feet by 25 feet square, and that's about it. It's built out onto this flat, which may have some of this finer stuff, may be jig tails, but it may just be material that they brought in here to kind of fill as well. So I'm just going to get a sample of this upper stuff. I don't think we really need to. This bottom stuff is pretty much all just crushed granite. Can't really tell too much about what this looked like. You can see a lot of scrap metal around, that sort of thing, but for the most part it's pretty well been burnt and is out of here. The creek is down here, again does not impact anything. As far as these tailings go, they're well above creek level even at flood stage. Again, you can see some more scrap metal and things down here along the creek. Well, I think what I'll do for water samples, since these are fairly close to the creek and the waste dump does almost make it to the creek and the adit water almost makes it to the creek, I think what I'll do is sample Decker Creek up above the Minerva tailings, which are up the road here about a mile, kind of get a reference sample up above those, and then I'll also take one down here where Trail Creek and Decker Creek merge to become the Yuba River. And that should kind of give us a good downstream sample for this for the Decker Creek drainage here. I think that's about all there is to show here, so I'll go ahead and take some still photos and get the sample here, and then we'll go on up and look at the Minerva tailings. I'm still here at the Yuba Tunnel mill site, and I just wanted to show that this is the Forest Service boundary, and it cuts almost halfway through the tailings here. So it appears as some of these tailings are on Forest Service land and some are probably on patented claims. I think this is the boundary is Forest Service land behind this sign toward Decker Creek. So it would be this little patch out here where my rock hammer is, and back this way about 10 feet or so. Then they extend on over right to the base of this wall. Okay, well that'll pretty well wrap this up and we'll move along. This is July 26, 2001. I'm at an unknown prospect here. I'm not sure what the number is, although it might actually be part of the Yuba group, which is I believe HA84. I went ahead and gave it a site number of K7260115. It's a small prospect adit that's caved. Looking down, this is the waste dump. You can see these trees that are burnt are not real big, but the dump's been here for quite a while. Trail Creek Road is just down below me here. The road passes just below the dump a little ways, and then Trail Creek is off on the other side of the road, so this doesn't impact the creek at all. It's totally caved. There's a mine rail up here on the dump coming out, and but other than that, it's just kind of a little slough on the hillside here, nothing really to see. At first I thought it was just a little wash coming out of the gully. I can see something way up through the trees And I'm not going to get to that today. I can't tell if that's a granite outcrop or whether there's a waste dump up there, but there is the possibility that there might be something else up there. In any case, we'll try to take care of that some other day. And that's about all there is to show right here. I guess the only other thing would be a little bit of scrap metal kind of lying down here on the dump. Pretty well burnt up, and not much else to see. This is an unnamed site. Its number will be E80101-1. We're looking approximately south. It's a large flat area just about where the confluence of Decker Creek and the Yuba River come together. It's just below the confluence and above the road that goes up the Yuba River and then on up Decker Creek. Again, we're looking south on this large flat. There's some multiple pits right on the west side of the flat. I'm not sure what they're all about. The same size, probably 4, 5, 6 feet in diameter and a couple feet deep. They just run right along parallel to the road. Whole series of them. It's hard to say exactly what they are, but they pretty uniformly spaced and uniform size going along the one edge of the dump. They may have been for samples. This may be tailings of some sort. There may have been a mill here. We'll turn around and look more to the east and see what brought our interest into this area. There's a large retaining wall here. We're turning around more to the east. Again, if you look up into the shadows there, it's kind of hard to see, but there's about a 4 or 5 foot rock retaining wall right at the foot of the hill. We'll go up and get a little bit better look at it. There are a series of terraces, as you can probably see, sort of coming up the hill up to that retaining wall. We'll get a little better look at those also. We'll turn around and look back to the north and from about on one of those terraces. Here we're on the north end of that flat, and just above it on the east side, you can see where the flat down here working along basically to the east. We're looking right parallel to one of the terraces. You get on up, there's another terrace, and there's that retaining wall that we saw from the other side. Kind of a nice hand set rock wall just right along the foot of the hill there. It's hard to say what it was for. If there was a mill here, it was a very small one. There's nothing really above this, no superstructure on up there or any indication of a mill, and it's real hard to say exactly what was the purpose of all this work here. But just to document what we saw, that it could conceivably have been a mill or some kind of a site like that. And this may be tailings. I don't think so. I dug around in there and it doesn't really look like any kind of mill tailings, either jig or flotation tails. So no sample was taken here, but we have the site documented and located, and that should be sufficient for right now. So this will be it for site E80101-1. A sign at this site identified it as the Gadsby lead nickel mine, and when we got back and checking the old claim groups, it appears that this has the same description as the Constant Hope mine, which we previously had in our files. This is July 26, 2001. I'm looking down toward Trail Creek. Down here in the very bottom, if I can zoom in a little, and we'll go down here after a while. You can see a building that was burnt during the fire. This may be HA83, the Constant Hope Prospect, but there was a sign down along the trail that called it the Gadsby Lead Nickel Mine. I'm standing up here on the slope, maybe 50, 70 feet above the trail, and I'm on this little waste dump. It's very small, about maybe 8-10 feet across at the most, about 4 feet wide, and it goes down the slope here about 8 feet. Then just up above me here, kind of to the, I believe it would be the northwest. I'll have to check the map, so I'm not too sure my direction right here. You can see another little waste dump, and it's slightly bigger. It's also caved as this one is. This is the little trough that goes up the slope, and I'll call this adit 1. That one's going to be adit 2, and it's just got a little trough as well. So not a very extensive working. It does kind of trickle down the slope here about 15 feet. It looks like up through the trees here I can possibly see some other dumps, although this burned slope in the granite kind of tends to look like that anyway. Then there are also supposed to be, we had 2 adits shown back around this little hill here in the gully that comes down right above those buildings. So I'm going to do a little walking around here and see if I can find them, and if I can find some more adits, I will get some more video. Also down here below me, on a little bench above the trail, is an old car body. Maybe it'll show right through the limbs of that burnt tree there. In any case, there's a lot of scrap metal down there, and we'll go down and take a look at a lot of that later. Well, this is still the Gadsby Lead Nickel property, or whatever the old name might have been. And I went around further to the north, as it turned out it was, and I really didn't see any more dumps. What I thought might be were just some bare slopes. I probably exposed a lot more because of the fire. This is kind of the drainage that goes down to the burnt buildings. Can't really see them from here, but it comes on up, and there was supposed to be an adit down fairly low on here, and there's a very, very minor trough. I don't even know if this will show, but right there in the center is a little trough that goes down that way. That might have been a prospect, but couldn't really tell. However, up here a little further, where the gully kind of splits, there is a small waste dump here. Again, this is a very small prospect adit, and I can't see it too good from right here. It's just right behind those trees is a fairly sizable waste dump, much bigger than these other ones. So I'll go on up that way and get a little video on the way up, and then also someone I'm up there. Okay, this is the waste dump for adit 4 on the slope. I'm actually standing right on top of the waste dump for adit 3, this little small pile right here that I showed you just previously. And so you can see this one up here is fairly large compared to this one down here. So I'm going to go up there and see if that happens to be open. Okay, now down through on the slope there, you can see that small waste dump of adit 3 kind of coming out from under those trees. The gully goes on up, and then this is the waste dump for adit 4. You can see that their claim marker, their PVC claim marker, didn't fare too well in the fire. This is a fairly sizable dump though. Do have an old wheelbarrow. Its rubber tire didn't fare too well either. You can see there. And the pick and shovel actually didn't burn. It's pretty surprising. You can see the notch here where the adit caved. I'm going to go up here. There may actually be a small opening. Get up here, take a closer look. No, she's completely caved right here, so probably wouldn't be too hard to dig all this out, but this is quite a ways up the slope, and there really isn't any trail up here. Kind of just have to work your way either up the side slopes over there or up the gully. And again, if I kind of look out, this direction is probably a little bright, but looking down here is a gully that goes on down, and then Trail Creek is right in the bottom of the drainage down here. I'll get some stills here, and then we'll go on down. We'll get a little video of the burnt buildings down there. Looks like they lost quite a bit of equipment and supplies, and I don't see anything else up the slope anywhere that really looks like another dump, so I'm not going to go up any higher. This is about as high as we had showed them on our maps. Now I've come back down from Adit 4. This is Trail Creek Trail. Excuse me. It comes up, goes on up the draw here, goes on up the canyon. See a little bridge across there, and you can see the two burnt buildings. One looks like it might have been a shop. There's a lot of rail and other miscellaneous stuff in that, and I'll get down there and we'll look a little closer. And then this other one may have been more of a cabin, although there's quite a bit of junk and stuff in there too. Some propane tanks, axes, mauls, that sort of thing, all of which are burnt. And then apparently an outhouse back up here that also burnt. The car body is just off to the right over there, which would kind of be to the northwest. There are some trails going up this other side that go clear up the ridge and cut back that way, but I don't really see any prospects over there. So if they're related to the prospecting, why nothing shows over there, and we don't have anything that shows over there. So I'll go on down and we'll get a little closer look at some of the stuff that's down here, and then that'll pretty well wrap it up once I do that. Well, this is the one shed that's down along the creek that burnt. Again, you can see a lot of scrap metal, angle iron, that sort of thing, stovepipe. Just all kinds of scrap metal, at least it is now, all that is burnt. Some more stuff over there. About the only thing that really seems to have survived fairly well intact are these stock tanks. The water barrel there melted a little bit. See an axe head beyond that. And then in the upper building here, there's a wood stove kind of in underneath. Again, some kitchen utensils and pots and pans. These cast iron skillets are probably still in pretty good shape. Can't seem to hurt them. Propane tanks, pick heads. Geez, just all kinds of stuff here. Chairs that pretty well trashed. Another propane tank, a fairly large one back there. A couple coffee cups that survived, somebody pulled out. And just a lot of miscellaneous scrap metal, bed springs and an old bed. More stovepipe down over here. Buckets, barrels. Somewhere I'd found a rifle handle or a rifle butt before. I think it's right up here. So it looks like it might have been a little .22 rifle or something. And a hammer or fiberglass handle. It's pretty well gone. So really that's about all that's here. Looks like they had a nice old drill bit in here that kind of took it, kind of bit the dust. And the barbecue grill actually seems to have survived in pretty good shape. And appropriately, it looks like somebody decided that their luck had run out. This next site is an unnamed mill at the junction of, I believe it's Trail Creek and the Yuba River. There were some tailings at this site, but we didn't find any workings associated with the mill itself. It may be related to the Gadsby lead nickel mine or to some other mines in the area. So we didn't give it a site number since it's probably related to one of the others, but we did give it a field site number. This is July 26, 2001. I'm at it's not really a mine site. Kind of looks like a little mill. So I gave it a site number K7260112. And this is what looks like a burnt mill. This must have just burnt in the fire. You can see some 3 cells in there that to me look like flotation cells, but I'm not that familiar with some of this equipment. And then something over there with some pulleys and gears, and again, I'm not too sure what that is. It looks like a tray there of some kind. A belt driven or a belt drive down in here. There's looks like either diesel or gas engine down in there. A small crusher right here. And then a flume pipe that goes up the hill, clear up to the top of this little knob, and then at the top up there is a ditch that goes all around and doesn't quite connect with Trail Creek, but it looks like it may have at one time. Then this little flat up here appears to be where they would have come and dumped in the ore, whatever the ore was, come down here to maybe some crushers or something else, and then fed the equipment down there. So there are some rails down here, mine rails, but I haven't seen any added around here close by. The closest thing was up the road here a little further at the Gadsby or whatever we determine it is later, but that doesn't really look like it produced anything that would have been run through this little mill. So I don't know if it was a placer operation of some kind or if he was getting ore from somewhere or what. In any case, there's also a burnt cabin over there, and I'm sure these just burnt in this fire, and quite a bit of equipment and scrap metal, and it looks like it was a diesel tank or something through there, and a lot of old barrels, things like that around. I'm sure there's probably not too much in anything. If there was, why it would have gone up in the fire. In any case, I wanted to document this. Whether or not we use it, that's something else, but you can kind of hear Trail Creek perhaps. It runs along here and then swings around. This is right where it makes a bend, and these buildings are shown on the topographic map. And then the creek runs on down, and down this way connects with Yuba River, or connects with Decker Creek and forms the Yuba River. Well, that's all I wanted to show here, so I'll just move along. Well, I'm still at the site of those burnt buildings, the cabin and what looked like a mill. And lo and behold, I came down the road a little bit, and there's a little flat down here by the creek where I'm pretty sure these are flotation tails. Very fine. I can't tell how thick. We're not very far above the creek, but the area that it covers, again, it's a little difficult to say because it's a little marshy and swampy over here, and we're also right next to huge dump of cans and bottles and junk and garbage. But this little grassy flat extends all the way out here to the creek and down here to where those trees are burnt, and back over and around to this little rise right here. And it's possible that these are all flotation tails. Maybe if I get over here toward the creek a little, we can look and see what. There's some fine material out here, but that could just be stuff washed down by the creek. So really difficult to tell how much of this is tailings. It could just be this little patch right here, kind of where this fallen tree is, right over to here. So it could be anywhere from about 25 or 30 feet in diameter to about 150 feet long, and I would guess 60 feet wide. So that's kind of the maximum and minimums that would be here. Thickness, I doubt if it's over 3 to 4 feet total thick, probably not that thick. It looks like it was a small mill, so I wouldn't think there'd be too much in the way of tailings. And again, I'm not sure where the ore from this would have come from. They may have actually trucked it up here from maybe the Yuba mine or somewhere else. In any case, maybe historical information will tell us that. I'll get a sample of this. It may turn out it's not tailings, but it sure looks like it to me. So I'll get a sample of this, and then hopefully that'll conclude this property. The next site is an unnamed mine west of the Yuba River on the ridge between Yuba River and an unnamed drainage that drains into Camp Gulch. What we're looking at here is the partially collapsed portal to an unnamed mine. It's HA87. We're looking basically southwest from the dump at the collapsed adit there. If you right up here, kind of close, we'll get up a closer look and look down inside. It's an opening big enough to get in. Once we get up there, you'll be able to see that the face here is collapsed down a little bit, and so there's a big pile of rocks and jumble right in front, but it is accessible. There's a boiler standing vertical right outside the portal. In pretty good shape. It's the base has been filled in with the stuff that sloughed off the hillside there. But other than that, it's in pretty good shape, standing right outside the portal. So we'll get up close by there and look down inside the hole so you can see what how big the opening is. Here we're looking down into that open adit, that HA87. As you can see, it is open down in there. I don't know if you can see very well. It's caved back in. I crawled down just right to about where the rocks come down. It looks fairly unstable in there, and there's a few timbers laying around, but I didn't go on inside, so it's hard to say just how far back it goes. The dump is not very large. It's probably at the most 40 feet long from the position I'm at here on out to where it falls off the hill. It's a very steep hill, and so I'm sure a bulk of the material just went on down the slope. But there's no real good perspective to see how big it really is. So we'll turn around and take a look at the flat that's right outside the portal, and that will be it for this one. Here we're looking right outside the portal to HA87. We're looking at the dump kind of northeast from the portal, north and northeast. As you can see, all that brush out there, there's no good perspective to get to view the dump very well. Kind of a small flat right outside the portal. Again, here's that boiler that I saw in the other view. The road is basically brushed in right close by here. We're looking basically the direction the road comes from on the ridge that comes up from Trail Creek. So this will be basically it for HA87. Not a lot to see here. We pretty much covered all of it just by looking at the open portal. So that will be it for HA87. What we're looking at here is a small cabin that's just above the road that's on the way to that mine HA87. It's just for completeness sake. There are a few little very minor prospects in this area, and this cabin is probably related to the activity in here, the prospecting in that little bit of a mine. So we're looking at basically east at the door of the cabin. It's basically standing. The roof is in poor shape, but other than that, it's pretty good shape. This is the road right here. Again, looking east, we're heading back down towards Trail Creek. So just for completeness sake, this little cabin is probably related to that mine that I just videoed, HA87. So this will be it for that. The last site we looked at was an unnamed prospect that's just west of the Yuba River and just north of Bass Creek. What we're looking at here is a collapsed adit. We're looking kind of where the portal used to be. This will be site E80101-2. We're looking southwest at the collapsed adit. I'm standing out on the dump. The topography here is very subdued. It's just right at where the slope starts going away from the Yuba River, and so the dump, we'll get back and take a look at it. It's not very big. It's probably no more than about 45-50 feet long, and maybe that wide. It's kind of spread out along the slope. So we'll go get a look at we'll take a look at the dump from the portal, and then take a look at the toe of it. Here we're looking northeast out onto the dump from where the collapsed portal is on this unnamed mine. It's 080101-2. You can see it's pretty brushed in, a little bit of burned trees, kind of a small flat. We'll get a look out on the toe of it, about where the light material ends there. That's pretty much the end of the dump as it comes away from the portal. So we'll take a look back, kind of pointing south, and look and see what the size of the dump, how thick it is and such. Here we're looking south, basically at the kind of the toe of the dump. As you can see where the white material is there, the dump material, it just goes out. It's very low topography right here. It's very, very slight slope. You can see there's a lobe that goes on out a little ways. Not sure what was going on there, but there's another lobe. Looks like possibly a more recent one right there above where my pack is above it. And then right back up into where the adit is, where the collapsed portal there. We're looking back up into the hillside. So this will be it for E80101-2.
2.
No visit to the Atlanta area would be complete without at least a brief tour of the town. We'll begin with an overview of the town from up on the hill above Atlanta, on Atlanta Hill, looking back toward the north, and then we'll give you a few brief shots of the town itself.
July 26, 2001. Just happened to be coming down the road and thought we could get a nice overview on video of the town of Atlanta, which is down below us. You can see the airstrip out there to the, I guess that's the airstrip. No, the airstrip's over there to the right. The big lodge that you see down in there was built a few years ago. They were going to have a big development up here and it never happened. I guess for $1 million or so you can buy that lodge today. And then down below us, somewhat in the trees, and we're going to walk kind of along slowly because there's a different break up here in the burn. You can kind of get a view of the small hamlet of Atlanta. The big tailings pond, which we'll try to get some video of, that there was a problem with a couple years ago when part of it washed out, is off to the right of this picture a little bit, and we could probably get some good video from down around the corner of that, but just gives you kind of a good rolling picture here of what the town looks like. And you can see by the burn that we're standing in, they were pretty concerned about losing that whole town. You can see the fire here burnt right down the ridge, and then started heading on down into town. So it could have been pretty serious for them. So with that, we'll fade on out of a good overview of Atlanta. July 27th, 2001. We're in downtown Atlanta, just about in the heart of the city. We're focused right on the Beaver Lodge, which is where we stayed when we were here. And right behind the lodge over in there was another one of the mills, and I'm not sure which one it was. But according to the lady that owned it, her house, which is, not those newest ones, but out in back there a little ways, was a mill site. I'm not sure it's over in that area or not. But we're going to just take kind of a gentle swing around the town, give you an idea of its flavors. It's got 2 streets. This is the Atlanta Club, which is now closed. A neat old building, which I'm sure has, sorry about that. I'm going to go, we'll swing on back and do that with a zoom, right? Okay, there's the Beaver Lodge. And we're looking to the north, more or less, across the front of the Atlanta Club. And a rather interesting little building next to it. Some of the home sites up in here. That's the end of town up there. This road right in front of us here, if you turn right, takes you up Quartz Gulch, which is goes on up to the mines up on the top of the hill. Here's the hub, which is recently opened, and again some of the just structure of the place. From the top of that hill over to that hill is Quartz Gulch, with most of the properties up towards the top of it. Here's the Whistle Gulch, or Whistle Stop Cafe as it's called, and back down to the Beaver Lodge. So that kind of gives you a general flavor of town. There's 2 streets, the one right down there where that blue pickup is, and then the one that comes up by the Beaver Lodge and swings on up through here. So we'll zoom in on the Beaver Lodge and fade on out for this segment.
This concludes tape 3 of 3 tapes on the study of abandoned or inactive mines in the Atlanta Mining District of the Boise National Forest, conducted in the summer of 2001.